Welcome once again to Insight. This is our maiden edition, and in this edition, for the next few weeks, I'll be sharing insights into marriage. Insights into marriage. I wanted to know first that God created marriage. God created marriage, and marriage can be likened to leadership. But the way I look at it is that if we do our marriages and relationship the way God expects us to do it, there is no way that we will not succeed in our marriages and in our relationships. In the next few moments, I want you to stay tuned because I will be sharing some scriptures with us, and I will be sharing what we can do to make our marriages, successful. Number one is that marriage can both be cultural and spiritual. Marriage can both be cultural and spiritual. What do I mean by that? The spiritual aspect of marriage is that God created marriage. He looked at Adam, and the Bible said that it said it's not good for man to be alone, and I'll create a helpmate for Adam. And that's how God created Eve for Adam. And both of them, got married, as it were. There are some basic things there before Adam got married, as it were, to Eve. Number one is that Adam had a job. Adam had a job. God said to Adam, keep and tend this garden. It's important for every male to understand if you are going to get married, that you need something in hand as it regards what you do or the profession you are in or the kind of business you are doing, because it helps this thing called marriage. Number two, Adam had a relationship with God. He had a relationship with God because the Bible tells us, later when they had eaten the forbidden fruit, that God walked in the cool of the garden just to ask Adam how they were doing. Because marriage is ordained by God and it's spiritual, like I said, we must ensure that we carry ourselves along with God in this institution that is called marriage. And then number three is that we must understand when the disciples came to Jesus and they were asking him, did Moses not say that we should give certificate of divorce, to our wives? And Jesus told them that in the beginning it was not so. He said, but because of the hardness of your heart, the spiritual line I'm trying to bring out there is that as long as our hearts are hardened, it's going to be difficult for minor issues, as it were, to be resolved, because everybody wants to have, their way. So, what's the cultural aspect, of marriage? Listen to me, folks. There is a way you and I will grow up. If you grow up in a home where the man is always abusing the woman, it might come out to you as if that's the way, disagreements are handled. And then you get older and you get married and you realize that to handle disagreements, you can't handle it with discussions. You need to abuse your spouse. It's the culture that you have carried over into your marriage. It's the same thing. Every organization has a culture, and that's why we have to be careful the kind of culture that we are bringing into our relationship. When we talk about culture, most people think, it's geographical. Geography, as it were, is just part of it. It's not the whole of it. Culture simply is the way we do things. The way we do things. If you do things wrongly, it becomes a culture. And for you, that's all you've always known. And you carry it into your marriage only to realize that this thing is for it. So I always say to people, before you get married, learn each other's culture. Go to the homes, check out the homes. I say this often, that if you're going to get married to a lady, or even to a man, what do? If you go to their home, you watch the parents very carefully, because once one or either or both of them, misbehave or do something that is not right, I want you to know that the apple does not fall too far from the tree. You've seen your future. So you have to be very, very careful, about it, because that's the culture, in the home, and people carry cultures around, as if it's a normal thing. So let's move on from the culture. Once you get the culture right, we have to now ask ourselves, what are the things that I should look for before getting married? Before getting married. I'll talk about now that you are married, but let's even talk about before I get married. Number one, you must check the trunk. What do I mean by checking the trunk? Every car has a trunk. I've never seen anybody want to buy a car and you are checking the trunk first. Most times people look at the power of the engine. They look at the tires, they look at the body, they look at the inside, they look at everything. And that's what many people do in marriages. You look at the build-up of the lady or the man, you look at the muscles, you look at the abs, and you think, oh, this is it. I'm telling you, no matter how good your abs are, it will not, and I repeat, it will not say to you that the marriage will work. No. It's not dependent on the abs. It's not dependent on the muscles either. But I wanted to know that the trunk, what does it mean for an individual? It's the baggages that we carry. Every man, every woman is a sum of our experiences in life. If you have been carrying baggages over and over and over and over, and you now get engaged and you get married, most times those baggages, they are not left behind, they are brought into the situation. So you get married and a simple discussion or disagreement blows up. And you are thinking, what did I say now? It's not about what you said. It's about the baggage that is being carried over. Many times they send messages. Those baggages send messages to people. And the bigger the trunk or the bigger the baggage, the more problem or challenges that you are going to face in the marriage. You have to keep on explaining to yourself that, oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. In the early years of our marriage, to my wife, and I'm proud to say we've been married for 33 years, and we've known each other for 36 years. That's a long time. It's a lifetime sentence, really, when you think of marriage. And I realized in the first year, we were arguing about stuff. And the stuff were not major issues. We can look at the wall and I say, oh, what's the color of this wall? And she says, oh, the color is beige. And I'll say, oh, it's off-white. Oh, she says, no, it's not off-white. Okay, how about bone? How about this? And the more we argued about the thing, I realized that it really doesn't make any sense. Whether it's beige or it's off-white or it's bone, it really doesn't make any sense. Only to find out that because she grew up with a lonely or a lone brother, they were always arguing. And the challenge growing up was that she always wanted to win the argument, but she never won the argument. So she brought that as a baggage into the marriage. So every discussion to her is, an argument, and she wants to win. And I said to her, so one day I said to her, listen to me, I'm not your brother, I'm your husband. The bottom line is this: whether you win an argument or not, don't lose the marriage because you want to win an argument. So please, can you just forget about your brother concerning this issue? I'm not your brother. I think one way or the other, that thing just resonated with her. And that was the end of, do we still argue? Yeah, we still do. But that was the end of the mindset at that time. So I don't know the baggage you have brought into this relationship. I don't know the baggage your spouse has brought into this relationship, unless you start to resolve the baggage. Some people felt that they were abandoned when they were growing up, and that abandonment, it has not left their mind. So each time they have a disagreement with you, they are looking at, will you abandon me also? Will you leave me also? If the dad left home very early or the mom left home very early, there's a mindset that tells you that this particular marriage also, either of you will leave very early. So if you don't fight those things, it's going to be difficult, for us to be able to move on. And I'm going to be talking about this more next at our next meeting.
Thank you for watching and listening to Insight with PT, our weekly podcast streaming every week at the same time. Join us next week for the continuation of this program.